So in today's video, I want to discuss the differences between the Mini 3 Pro and the brand new Mini 3. And I also want to share 10 reasons of why you should go Pro instead of going basic. Now, number one is quite obvious. It's going to be the avoidance sensors that we find on the Mini 3 Pro. So in order to reduce the price, DJI has removed the obstacle avoidance sensors along with a ton of features I think is worth the extra cost in the long run. Now, the Mini 3 do have sensors, but that's only vision sensors and it's located on the bottom of the Mini 3, just as we have on the Mini 3 Pro as well. But with the Mini 3 Pro, we also have avoidance sensors on the bottom, but with the Mini 3, you only have the vision sensors, and the vision sensors is giving you a precise hover, is also going to give you a GPS lock, and will indicate how high your drone is up into the air. So that's the only thing in regards of sensors that you get with the Mini 3. So because the Mini 3 is lacking avoidance sensors, that also means there's no active track in the Mini 3, which is reason number 2. Now, missing one of the most used features, especially for me, along with, every single feature basically, is a huge downgrade from the Mini 3 Pro, if you ask me. I would actually prefer to have at least front-facing sensors on the Mini 3 basic. That would make it a huge upgrade over the Mini 2. Now there's no huge difference between the Mini 2 and the Mini 3, and with the front-facing sensors only, that means you could have something like active track and maybe squeeze in a few other features as well without calling it Pro. So a huge downgrade, if you ask me, compared to the Mini 3 Pro. Now, one of my most used features with this drone, and something I use actively when I take this out for a spin, is Spotlight. And Spotlight is so easy to use, and it creates a unique shot and something different, and you don't have to rely on maneuvering the drone. You can also let go of the stick and the drone will do everything for you. So Spotlight is basically a feature that you use to capture super smooth orbit shots of yourself or the subject that you are tracking, or your object. So you can easily just mark a building, a person if you're standing still, and then you can select where the direction the drone is going to go, left or right, and you can also use the sticks after you hit go. So in this example here, I'm orbiting around myself using Spotlight, and I'm also using the left stick to adjust the altitude of the drone. Now I could also let go of the sticks, and the result of that would be a shot where the drone is orbiting around me, creating something different, revealing a new thing for every single degree it goes around you. So a really neat feature, and something which is a must-have and must-use feature if you have the Mini 3 Pro already, or any other drone which can do the exact same thing and has the Spotlight feature. So it's a huge thing to have in your drone, and with the Mini 3 you don't get that. So upgrading to something like the Mini 3 from the Mini 2, I actually see no point in doing that. Now let's say you're buying your drone for the very first time, right? And at some point you want to upgrade your drone and you want to get the Pro features or more features. And for some people, this change comes really fast, like less than a year. And for others, it takes a little bit longer. What I mean is, instead of going for the Mini 3, I would opt in for the Mini 3 Pro, as it has all the features you want to upgrade to as you progress and become a better drone pilot. So you might as well get the Mini 3 Pro instead of paying double up for 2 drones when you can get the best sub 250 gram drone for a little bit more. Now let's take a look at reason number 4. The Mini 3 has no 10-bit D-Cine-like color profile, which is huge for a lot of people. Now, this is as individual as it can get. It really depends on your needs and what you're used to. Do you enjoy filming with the normal color profile in 8-bit, and is this something that you prefer over the 10-bit D-Cine-like color profile? It's completely individual, and everyone has its own opinion. But let me tell you why the 10-bit D-Cine-like is something worth looking at. So a lot of people owning a mini drone shoots in the normal color profile because that's the only profile you have. But it actually looks pretty darn good, especially for the Mini 2, Mini 3, and the Mini 3 Pro. Now, since the Mini 3 base model has the same camera as the Mini 3 Pro, the image quality coming from the normal color profile will look identical identical on both drones. So there's not going to be any difference looking at the normal color profile 8-bit coming from the Mini 3 and the Mini 3 Pro. It's going to be exactly the same in 4K 30. But if you're someone that wants to take your drone to the next level and maybe turn it into a business or start a YouTube channel, 10-bit DC-like will give you a much better image with more dynamic range and flexibility when it comes to color grading. So with the normal color profile, you have little to none adjustments because it's normal color profile and it's going to have all the colors applied to it already. So it's going to be hard to manipulate a lot of that, especially in the highlights and shadows. So color correction is not going to be your best friend when it comes to the normal color profile, but you can still apply some custom LUTs to make your image look better. Now, what's really important here is applying some custom LUTs. You don't want the custom LUTs to be a finished grade. You don't want them to be oversaturated and over contrasted. You want them to be subtle, so it's going to be easier for you to apply them to a normal color profile. So for this sake, I want to mention that my signature LUTs now has a discount tag for this Christmas. And if you want the best LUTs for your drone or any camera with the ability to easily color match your footage from different cameras and profiles, you can check them out down below. And one more thing, what's really awesome with these LUTs is that they literally work with any profile. So shooting a few shots in different color profiles with your iPhone Mini 3 Pro and a Sony camera, or let's throw in a GoPro to that as well. You can easily apply the same LUT to each clip and adjust the intensity and you're done. So down below if you want to check out my best signature LUTs for your device. Now, reason number 5 of why you should go pro instead of basic has something to do with frame rates. Now, a lot of people prefer to shoot in 50 and 60 FPS with their drone, and they also want to have the highest possible quality, which is for the Mini lineup 4K. Now, with the Mini 3 Pro, you can shoot in 4K up to 50 and 60 FPS, but with the Mini 3, you can only shoot up to 30 FPS in 4K. It's not a bad thing because most of the time I actually shoot in 30 FPS and slightly slow it down. But in the case it has happened, and I must say when we did our last trip, 60 FPS was one of my most used features, along with 30 FPS recording. So for a variety of different shots, it was better to shoot with 60 FPS because then I could slow it down in post-production, making the footage look more cinematic. And especially I love having some slow motion added to the waves of the ocean when those are hitting the beach. It's just amazing how good it looks. However, the Mini 3 can shoot in 60 FPS, but that's going to be in 2.7K. So if that's something that you can settle with and shoot in a lower resolution, 2.7K, which is still looking quite good, then you know the Mini 3 is doing that. But of course 4K is going to look so much better. So 4K 60 is something that's huge for the Mini 3 Pro, and it's something that we haven't seen in any other mini drones prior to the Mini 3 Pro. So a huge advantage, 4K 60 for this drone. Personal opinion, and I just love the 4K 60 with this drone. So you have a decision to make. Do you want to film in 2.7K at 60 FPS or 4K 60? Now, Hyperlapse and time-lapse is something that I use a lot, and I used it a lot, especially during our last trip to the States this summer, and it's a must-have feature if you ask me. Now, Hyperlapse is something that you can use when you're traveling or when you're making a travel sequence, and I think this is a must-have in any travel sequence because it breaks up the normal static shots which you also get with this drone or any drone, like recording in 4K 30, 4K 60, anything like that. Just the normal shots, having some hyperlapse or time-lapse shots is definitely a must-have if you're making a travel sequence. Now, hyperlapse is also useful as a break between day and night, or from one day to the next day, depending on what type of video you're making. So if you're making a vlog and then you're gonna go over to the next day, using hyperlapse as that break from day 1 to day 2 is worth looking into if you're doing a lot of vlogging on your channel. Now, with the Mini 3, you don't have hyperlapse. End of story, you don't have hyperlapse. So the only way to get around this and to fake an hyperlapse is to have your drone hovering in the same location or fly slowly to either direction for minutes, for then to bring the footage into your editing software and speed it up. And it's not going to be the same as a real hyperlapse. And you also need to hold the sticks in the same place throughout the shot to keep it as smooth as possible. And for a lot of people, that's going to be a pain. It's definitely boring holding your sticks for minutes when you can actually get that feature for a little bit extra, amongst a lot of different awesome features which you don't find in the Mini 3. So already we have 5 reasons to go with the Mini 3 Pro over the Mini 3. And I think that is 5 valid reasons to consider the Pro version over the basic model. Now, my point is upgrading from the Mini 2, or if you're going to buy a drone for the very first time, the upgrade from the Mini 2 to the Mini 3 is not as significant as you might think. And buying a drone should be an investment. So a huge reason to get the Mini 3 Pro, which I will also come to at the end of this video. But now let's move over to reason number 6. So that's going to be the transmission signal and the transmission feed coming to your controller from your drone. So the image that the drone is sending to your controller, so you're able to see what the drone sees. The huge difference here is that with the Mini 3 Pro, you get 1080p, so full HD at 30 FPS, but with the Mini 3, you only get 720p. So there's a slight difference there. For the average person, if you're used to the Mini 2, you're not going to notice any difference. So upgrading from the Mini 2 to the Mini 3, just because you get a better image, you're not going to get that. It's because it's running off of the same video transmission of OcuSync 2.0, whilst the Mini 3 has OcuSync 3.0, which gives you that 1080p 30 FPS image on your controller. But like I said, it's not going to be a wow difference in quality, but you will experience a softer image on the screen of your Mini 3 drone, like the footage is out of focus. But for most people, it doesn't mean the end of the world. And if you're coming from the Mini 2, which also runs off of the O2 video transmission, you won't notice a difference. But for a crystal clear and sharp image feed to your controller, the 1080p resolution you get with the Mini 3 Pro is well worth it if you ask me. So moving over to reason number 7, let's talk about the photos coming from the Mini 3 Pro and the Mini 3. Now, if you're the person that loves taking photos with your drone, the Mini 3 might not be the choice for you. Now, even though the Mini 3 has the same camera lens as the Mini 3 Pro, it still lacks the dedicated 48 megapixel photo option and the ability to shoot burst photos. So let's start with burst. Now, shooting burst is basically when your drone is taking photos rapidly, multiple photos at a set rate, and that's also something that you might use with action sports or when you are taking photos of something that is moving fast. Personally, I don't use burst. I've never used it, but for a lot of people, using their drone to capture some stunning photos of, you know, if we're on a racetrack or anything like that, or if you're gonna take a photo of something which is moving really, really fast, it's so much easier to use the burst option than take a single photo and then tap every single time. You can just take a bunch of photos right away, and it's a higher chance of capturing the shot when you're using burst than you would if you're doing a single photo. So for a lot of people, burst is a huge thing for their photography when they're flying the drone. So with the Mini 3, you don't get burst and you don't get the 48 megapixel photos. Now, I've been talking a lot about the 48 megapixel photos coming from the Mini 3 Pro, and I must say it's just amazing. I love it so much, and I can't believe how good the images is coming from this tiny sub 250 gram drone. It's amazing. I have the Mavic 3 Classic as well, and the photos coming from that is so much better than the Mini 3 Pro. But the Mini 3 Pro photos is all I need when I'm going out for a trip. I don't need to bring the Mavic 3 Classic, because this is more than enough for social media, and it's more than enough for Instagram and for showing you here on YouTube as well. And even I have different prints around my house here. Even on the wall, when you blow up the image, is looking fantastic. So a huge advantage with the 48 megapixel photos coming from the Mini 3 Pro, and is one of the biggest reasons to choose this over the Mini 3. Now, it's also worth mentioning that the Mini 3 is taking JPEG and RAW photos, just like the Mini 2 and the Mini 3. Now, reason number 8, let's move back a little bit here. Let's move back to frame rates, and more particular, slow motion. Now, slow motion is something that a lot of people are using and a lot of people are not using. But with the Mini 3, you cannot shoot slow motion. The highest frame rate to obtain with the Mini 3 is 60 FPS. And you also have to drop down to 2.7K to get that 60 FPS. But with the Mini 3 Pro, you can capture 1080p slow motion at 120 FPS. So that's something that you don't see in the Mini 3. But slow motion is something that not everyone is using, not everyone needs it, and a lot of people use it every single day. But for me, the slow motion feature is something that I don't use for cinematic purposes. Even though I love filming like waves in slow motion, I rather film that in 4K 60 FPS and slow it down as much as I can, and it still looks epic. But I really need the quality of 4K, which I don't get with the super slow motion on the Mini 3 Pro. Where I do love using it is with my family, and especially my son, capturing those epic moments, and he just loves watching it over and over and over again. So that's one of my uses for the slow motion feature on the Mini 3 Pro, and I still think it's a huge advantage. And if you really like to shoot slow motion content, the 1080p footage coming from the slow motion of the Mini 3 Pro in proper daylight or proper lit environments is going to be amazing. It's going to look so good. Now, you have to decide yourself whether this is something you're going to use or not, but for me personally, it's something that I love having. Not something that I use all the time, but I love having it, and I'm glad I have it when I'm using it. So yeah, it's a minor thing, but it's definitely something that puts the two drones apart. So also something to consider if you're picking up either one. Do you need the slow motion for any future videos or not? Now, getting close to the end here, so number 9 is going to be, of course, master shots, which is a really underrated feature and something that a lot of people don't use, but I will give you a tip on how to use it and how this can be beneficial for your content, whether it's business purposes for a client, you go on a trip, you're doing a hike, whatever you're doing. I'm going to give you a reason to love this feature. And it's also a feature that we don't see with the Mini 3. But let me tell you why you should consider using this if you're not using it already. Now, the reason why this is so perfect and the reason why you should start looking into it if you haven't already is that let's say the scenario is you are out traveling and you struggle to find out what type of shots that you want to shoot to make an appealing sequence, or if you're out and shooting something for a client or whatever you're doing, needing some b-roll of the location you're filming, anything like that, you know, using master shots, you can easily select the object or subject and it will do all the quick shots maneuvers for you, and you have a bunch of different angles of the same object. And it's not said that you need to use all of the different clips. You can trim away the parts that you don't want to have in your video in post-production, and you're left with the parts that you want to have. So it's basically the easiest and fastest way of getting multiple different shots of the same thing. And a huge thing if you're, if you're in a rush and you can't figure out what type of shots should I take, then you can just select your object or subject and hit master shots, and it will do everything for you, and you can just pick 1 or 2 or 3 from the sequence. Super simple, super easy, and something that you won't get with the Mini 3. Now last we have reason number 10 of why you should go with the Mini 3 Pro. Now these are the remaining differences between the Mini 3 and the Mini 3 Pro. So if you're on the fence, despite me giving you a ton of valid reasons to go with the Pro version, then you know this might tip you over to either side, whether you go for the Mini 3 or the Mini 3 Pro. So ever since the RC controller was released, we have now seen more compatibilities with the RC controller. First, it was the Mini 3 Pro only, and later we have seen the addition of the Mavic 3 series, the Air 2S, and now the Mini 3. So you have one controller now which you can fly with all of these drones. So if you have any of the bigger drones and you were excited to, you know, fly your RC Pro controller, which is the black one and the best DJI controller you can get, unfortunately you can't fly and use that with the Mini 3. You can only use it with the Mini 3 Pro and the Air 2S and the Mavic 3 lineup. So the RC Pro controller is not compatible with the Mini 3. So if you were excited about a new drone looking like the Mini 3 Pro, lacking some features, but it has that vertical mode, then you know, you can't fly that with the RC Pro controller. Eventually, we might see some updates on that. Maybe DJI is making more drones compatible with the RC Pro controller as well as the DJI RC controller. Of course, we can see that now just by lowering the video transmission system to 0.2 when you have the Mini 3 connected. So that sure means it's possible to make the controller compatible with the Mini 2 drone and also the Mini SE and the older drones, which also has the older transmission feed system. So that might be something that we can see in the future, because I think DJI is doing something smart here by allowing people to use one controller with their different drones. Let me know what you think on that part down in the comment section below. But you know, if you're used to the RC Pro controller, you're not going to be able to fly the Mini 3 with that. Now, another difference between the Mini 3 and the Mini 3 Pro is the distance, the range of the drone. So the Mini 3 Pro has 12 kilometers in US and the Mini 3 has 10 kilometers. So there's not a huge difference there. There's only 2 kilometers in difference, but where you might notice some differences, it could be in the signal, because the Mini 3 is running off of the video transmission system of O2, so OcuSync 2.0, whilst the Mini 3 Pro has OcuSync 3.0. So you're gonna have the advantage with the O3 on the Mini 3 Pro, and it might give you a better and stronger signal, especially in urban environments. And if you have the Mini 2, I still don't think it's worth upgrading just to get the Mini 3. If you're gonna upgrade, Mini 3 Pro 100% for sure. It's definitely the best drone to upgrade to if you don't want to go bigger and something like the Air 2S and Mavic 3 Classic. Now, another minor difference for a lot of people and a huge difference for a lot of people is the ISO. Both of the drones has dual native ISO, but the Mini 3 only has an ISO range up to 3200, whilst the Mini 3 Pro has double of that of 6400. So for low light or scenarios where you really need to crank up the ISO, you can't go any higher than 3200 with the Mini 3, and with the Mini 3 Pro, a huge advantage there if you need it, and if it's something that you use a lot, it can do double of that, 6400. So that's the huge and minor difference depending on your individual needs when it comes to the ISO range. So another difference here is the codecs in the Mini 3 Pro and the Mini 3. With the Mini 3 Pro, you're able to change the video codec from H.264 to H.265 depending on what you prefer and what your computer can handle. But with the Mini 3, you cannot change, so it's set to H.264. So overall, the difference between the Mini 2 and the Mini 3 is not as significant. If you ask me, it's a total waste of upgrade. The only difference is, yes, it's a really nice feature and a feature I use every single time I'm out shooting with this, and I've said that multiple times, but it's the vertical shooting mode. That's one of the upgrades from the Mini 2. The Mini 2 doesn't have vertical shooting modes. And also the Mini 3 has a better camera lens. It has, in fact, the same camera lens as the Mini 3 Pro. So it has a 1/1/3 inch CMOS sensor and an aperture of f1.7. So it's a slightly better camera lens than we have in the Mini 2. So vertical shooting mode, and then we have the camera lens, which is the difference. And the last is going to be the batteries. So the Mini 3 has a really awesome battery life, up to 51 minutes with the plus batteries and 38 minutes with the standard batteries, which we have here. So that's basically the only differences between the Mini 2 and the Mini 3. You have a better camera, vertical shooting mode, and longer battery life. Not worth it at all. Even though I love all the DJI products and I know the Mini 3 is going to be amazing for a lot of people, my suggestion is that you go for the Mini 3 Pro over the Mini 3, because eventually you want those better features, right? And as you progress and become a better drone pilot, maybe that goes really fast and you put a lot of effort and time into learning how to fly a drone, and once you mastered everything, you feel like you want to try out something new. You want some more features, you want better photos, you want to record at a higher frame rate, and you also want the amazing features. You want to track yourself, you want to use the amazing spotlight, and you can't do that with the Mini 3. So if you buy the Mini 3 and this progress comes in like 6 months, that means you would most likely want to sell your Mini 3 and then buy a Mini 3 Pro for the awesome features it has. And that means you're going to lose some money when you sell your used drone. And that also leaves you with a bigger loss than if you would opt in for the Mini 3 Pro right away. It's only about $300 more if you add the Fly More kit as well. So it's definitely worth it. And like I said, it is an investment. It's something that you buy and it's going to last for years. So $300 in addition to get the Fly More kit, or you can buy the Fly More kit separately at a later date if you want to do that, but I highly recommend the Mini 3 Pro. And also, if you buy in store, you can purchase the Mini 3 first, you can see how it is, and then you can return it and you can get the Mini 3 Pro and you can see the differences for yourself. If you're gonna ask me, I can't recommend the Mini 3 Pro enough. It's a fantastic drone and it just keeps on getting better. And I hope DJI will add some waypoints soon as well. And that makes this, a solid travel companion. And It's just an amazing drone. So that's everything that I have for you today, guys. I hope you found any value in my 10 reasons of why you should go pro over the basic Mini 3 version. If you did, let me know down in the comment section below, and also don't forget to subscribe. And if you found the value in this video, give the video a like for the algorithm. That would be really appreciated. So until next time, take care and fly safe, and I will see you in the next video.